Hey, welcome to Rob Paints Models. In today's video we're going to be doing the second half of Magores Fiends, the Flesh Hound. I'll also be showing you how to paint the bases in this video too. So I'm starting out with a black prime just like the rest of Magores Fiends. And over this I will be spraying some Evil Sun's Scarlet. I'm going straight to Evil Sun's Scarlet because red is a nice translucent colour and therefore it builds up in gradual layers quite easily over black to produce a nice gradient. We want to focus the red on the top of the model, leaving the kind of low parts of the halves of the legs, but beneath the knee, mostly black there. Now I'm going to be using a little Cadian flesh tone. I'm mixing this into my Evil Sun Scarlet. I can't give you an exact ratio of this, you just want to make it a little bit lighter but not pinkish. So I'm just using that just to highlight the very top of the model, so mostly going down the spine and hitting up the face a bit. Now I'm using this random purple, which I can't remember where I got it, but Xerius purple is a really close match for this, so just use that. I'm spraying that weird kind of flappy skin bit around the neck, I don't know what it's called. With that, I'm just getting it inside of the little spiny bits, just to speed up the base coatings section, really. Now I'm going to be applying an all-over wash of Nuln Oil on this model. Now I'm doing this in sections because you don't want it to do the whole model and then try and mop up the pooled wash afterwards, because that will already have started to dry and you'll start leaving tide marks. You want to do it in one section at a time. So I'm starting here with the head and the face and the neck, because it's got that collar separating it from the rest of the model. So it's a really easy section to do. You just want to get this into the eyes and the mouth and all over that little skin flappy neck thing. And just make sure you take the excess off the flat surfaces, such as the top of the head there, because we don't want it pooling on those areas. Now across the body, I'm making sure to concentrate the wash around the little spiky scaly bits that are on the Flesh Hound's shoulders and around those spines and on its rear legs a little bit. I'm applying it quite thickly here, but again I'm still going in with a damp brush and I'm cleaning up all of the areas where I don't want the wash to be. So all of the kind of open smooth skin areas, I don't want much wash on those areas, but I want it into the recesses and I want quite a lot of it around those scales because it's going to be providing us with quite a lot of the contrast and a lot of the pattern on this model. As you can see, I'm just doing one side of this model and then I'll go off and I'll do the other side. So this actually took 2 coats of wash on those spiny areas to get it how I wanted it, so it's nice and dark in those areas. So it takes quite a while to dry, but you can do that while you can paint the rest of Magores Fiends while you're waiting for this to go and dry. Now I'm going to be using Wild Rider Red and a small dry brush here, and I'm going to be dry brushing all of those scaly spines on the model here. I'm also going to be picking off the some of the face details and those little spines running down its spine. I guess that's why they're called spines. And this will just pick up those little raised kind of scales much quicker and much easier than trying to edge highlight them individually. So you want to go quite lightly over this, but a lot of coats, and you don't want it to pick up on, say, the butt of the Flesh Hound there too much, because it might, because there's a little bit of an edge there. So just be careful, you want to focus this around the spines and the scales more than anywhere else. Now we're going to be painting some edge highlights with Wild Rider Red. I'm just touching up the edge highlights on the face first, making to pick up those cheekbones, I guess they are, the jaw, around the eye sockets as well. That's very important that those are nice and highlighted and bright. Also picking up the tips of those spines as well, just to make them look a little bit sharper, a little bit brighter. Now I'm going to go through some Fire Dragon Bright. I'm just going to do the very corners of all of those edges that I just highlighted, especially on the face. This is going to be our top highlight color, I think, for the face here. Again, just want to catch those very sharpest edges where there are plenty of corners, and just on the little tips of the spines there. I'm also going to paint in the eyes while I'm doing this, just using a very, very fine pointed brush, some thinned paint, and a lot of holding my breath. Now I'm going to highlight just the front part of the eye with Irial Yellow. Again, stick your tongue out, hold your breath, concentrate hard, and use a very fine brush. Now I'm moving on to the neck thingy, and I'm using some glazes of Xerius Purple here, just to fill in the neck thing a bit better than the airbrush, just to do some glaze transitions from the areas where the red is still showing through to some purple, just to tidy those up a bit, focusing on getting the purple brighter towards the middle of the little skin flaps. Webbing. Is it webbing? I don't know. It's a demon. How does it work? Now I'm going to mix some Emperor's Children and Xerius Purple together. It's not quite 50-50, I'm just tinting it more towards the pink. So it's a little bit kind of close to Genestealer Purple, but a bit redder. I'm just going to use this to start highlighting the spikes between the webs, the webbed skin on the neck thing. I'm full of scientific terms today. Just highlighting those up so that they're nice and proud. Also painting a little bit of a kind of stripy pattern across them as the skin is stretched. Now I'm using some Emperor's Children. This is almost neat Emperor's Children. Again, just mixing it into that previous mix. Just brightening it up and just doing a little bit less of those spines and making sure to catch the edges of the skin flaps as well. Now this is pure Emperor's Children. Again, it's the very, very, very tippy toes. That's not right. The very tips of the spines there, the spikes, and also you can see I'm just painting in little stretch marks across there as the skin is stretched across those spikes with his flared neck protrusions. And I'm just going to kind of flesh it up a bit with some Cadian Flesh Tone. This is more kind of a random pattern rather than an actual edge highlight, just kind of dotting, making some dots, marks on those spikes, just to add a bit more colour variation, a bit more interest. Now I'm going to use some more glazes of Xerius Purple, and I'm just going to use that to kind of blend together all of those little lines that I've been painting on towards the middle. So I'm painting the glaze starting at the spiny bone part and glazing it towards the center of the webbing. As you can see, that kind of smooths it out a bit. Last step, wash all of that with DRYBRUSH Violet. It wants to be quite thin, nice and controlled. You just want it to get it into those tiny little holes and gaps that are in the neck, and it just kind of ties everything together nicely. Now I decided to paint the teeth and the claws and all the other sharp bits with black, and to paint them as a kind of shiny black material rather than a bone or actual tooth colour. This was to try and tie the model back into the rest of Magores Fiends who've got that black trim on their armour. So same method as the black trim, just base coat it black with a Abaddon black. Just be careful not to get it on any of the red bits, but it's not particularly hard on this model. Everything's got nice delineations on it. It's quite a good model to paint. It's quite easy to paint, really. So make sure you get all the teeth. I also painted the entirety of the inside of the mouth black, and I didn't do anything else to it after that point. I also painted the collar black at the same time as well, but that's just as a base coat for the gold colours later to come. And now I use some Administratum Grain, just highlighting all of those black parts, just going down the very sharpest lines on them, just picking them out. You can see on the teeth, it mostly just makes the teeth look a little bit more like they're grey or white teeth with black between them, but it really works quite well on the claws and the spikes on the tail. You might want to save painting the claws until after you've painted the base, because there's a good chance that you'll go over them when you're painting the base later. But I'm showing you it now because that's the order I did things in. But I kind of recommend painting them after you've done the base so that you can be a bit more messy when you do the base coats on the base colour. Now I'm using some titanium white and I'm just painting the very tips, the sharpest points, just to make those look nice and bright and sharp on all the teeth. And I'll just paint a few little dots and lines on the claws as well, just to make them look a bit nicked and battle damaged. Now we're painting the brass collar of Khorne with Balthazar Gold. This takes about 2 coats to cover. If you thin it, you want to thin it down so that it goes on nice and smooth, but you don't want it to be so thin that you lose control of it. But if you don't thin it down, it'll go on a bit clumpy. GW Metallics are like that. So add a little bit of water, a little bit of Winds of Newton Flow Improver. It'll smooth that out much better. Now we're going to do a single layer of Sycorax Bronze over that Balthazar Gold. This is just a very slightly lighter, slightly more desaturated bronze colour. And we're just going to be doing this on the top kind of half of the collar, the side that's facing the light. And this is just going to brighten up a little bit more, give us a bit more shine. Now we're going to do an edge highlight with some VMA steel, just going around the edge of the collar and highlighting all of those spikes. Now we're going to be using some Armour Wash on the collar. The recipe for this is in the description below. Although if you've been following along with all of my Shadespire and Underworlds videos, you've probably already got a big pot of this stuff made up by now. Once it's dry, that's your Flesh Hound finished. Now I tried a few different things with the bases here, but this is what I settled on. The skulls make it difficult to paint this without having the skulls be weirdly contrasty and focus stealing on the base. So I'm starting off by airbrushing them with Steel Legion Drab. This just to speed things up. You can totally paint this with a paintbrush. I'm just being lazy at this point. Now we're going to highlight those with Karak Stone, just kind of hitting up the middle of the face there. Again, I know what's coming next, so you can be really rough with this highlight. You don't have to worry about it too much. That's why I'm using the airbrush, to speed things up. And then Flayed One Flesh, again, mostly just getting this on the foreheads. And then we're going to wash all of those skulls with Agrax Earthshade and let it dry. Make sure to pop any bubbles in the eye sockets. Those things are absolute mares for getting bubbles in them. And then while that's drying, you can paint the rest of the base with Mournfang Brown. This takes about 3 thin coats to cover and get a nice smooth coverage going on. Be careful around the feet if you've already painted them like I have, or save them for later. Try not to get any on the skulls, but fortunately they're quite far away, far down from the cracked earth, so it's not too hard to stay away from the skulls. Now I'm going to dry brush them all with a small Games Workshop dry brush using Scrag Brown. Again, try not to get it on the skulls, but if you do, it's not the end of the world. And just dry brush that omnidirectionally across all of those cracked details on the ground there. Now I'm going to use Kindle Flame. And just do a very light dry brush across all of that. Again, same deal as before. And then Flayed One Flesh, mostly focusing on the edges of the bigger rocks here. If you get this on the skulls, it doesn't matter because this was the last highlight colour we used on the skulls. Now I'm going to use Pallid Witch Flesh, and again I'm dry brushing the entire base of this, including the skulls. I do recommend you go off and you clean your dry brush before using this, because you might still have some orange paints from the previous steps in there, or use a different dry brush. And it could mix together, and then because you are putting this on the skulls, you could end up with some slightly orange skulls for that extra baked bean look. Now I'm going to mix some Blood for the Blood God with some water and Galleria Flow Improver. It's not an exact ratio for this, but it's about 1-to-1 Blood for the Blood God and water. And we're going to use a nice big brush, and we're just going to run this like a wash into all of the skulls. Because, you know, Blood for the Blood God, Skulls for the Skull Throne, and all that stuff. And it looks quite kind of light and weirdly coloured at the moment, but once it's dry, all the water will evaporate and it'll go nice and bright red and look like blood again. You'll probably end up with a lot more of this than you actually needed. As you can see, once it's dry, it still looks like wet blood. Pretty gruesome. There we go, that's how to paint your Flesh Hound. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, share it with your friends, all that stuff. On the screen now you can see my lovely patrons who have funded this video. Thank you to everybody there. If you want more information about Patreon, you can check out the link on screen, it's also in the description below. There's all sorts of rewards. There's also a video here YouTube thinks you'll like, and my social medias that are on screen, again, link in the description down below. Thank you for watching, I'll see you later. Yeah, bye now.